I'm not teaching, I'm publicly learning. But hi and welcome to Learning from Life in the UK test, part 81. The Act or Treaty of Union in Scotland, on page 34, while doing morning stretching. And if you participate in the morning stretching, please sit your arms. The Act or Treaty of Union in Scotland. I don't know what the word treaty means, but I heard it a couple of times and it does not mean, it has nothing to do with the word treatment. It is more like act, so the act or declaration or something like that about the union in Scotland. We're going to start to read. William and Mary's successor, Queen Anne, had no surviving children. So after the Glorious Revolution, Mary and William were reigning. And now after them, Anne was queen. Was Anne a child of William and Mary, or is Anne the second child of James II? We were never told who the second child is, and not who the father of the child of James' wife is. So after William and Mary, Anne was reigning. Anne had no children who survived. This created uncertainty over the succession in England, Wales and Ireland and Scotland. So Queen Anne had no children, and so the people did not knew who would be the next monarch. The Act of Union, known as the Treaty of Union in Scotland, was therefore agreed in 1707, creating the Kingdom of Great Britain. So there was the Act of Union. Union makes sense, it is about the union of England and Scotland. And that was in 1707. So there was the Act of Union. So it is the Act of Union, and that is known as the Treaty of Union, in Scotland. Okay, it's known as Act of Union in England and Treaty of Union in Scotland. Something like that. But maybe we should note the Act of Union, known as the Treaty of Union in Scotland. So it's in England Act and in Scotland Treaty. And Treaty of Union in Scotland was therefore agreed in 1707, creating the Kingdom of Great Britain. And now the Kingdom of Great Britain was made. So it was probably the Kingdom of Scotland. At least Scotland had kings and queens, so why not Kingdom of Scotland? And Kingdom of England would make more or less sense. Now let's not do it. Let's just say Scotland and England, and now we are the Union and call the Kingdom of Great Britain. Now we have in Great Britain explained, now we don't. And that is Scotland and England. Wales is not mentioned here, but it is possible that through the Statutes of Rutland by Edward I in 1284, England and Wales are seen so close together that they are automatically, if Scotland and England making a union, they are part of that union, Great Britain, because Wales is part of Great Britain. But I'm not sure about that. It could be that actually just Scotland and England. Scotland and England created, we don't know. Let's go back to that after we have done a little bit morning stretching. Legs are standing wide apart. If you participate in morning stretching, it's sitting on this. The legs are standing wide apart, and we're breathing in and going down. And we're breathing out. And breathe again in. And out. Again in. And out. Again in. Out. In, out, and in, out, and now we're closing the legs, and we have done the opening exercise, and we're always breathing in through the nose, deep into the chest, and out through the mouth. So the next exercise, we're breathing in through the nose into the chest and lifting the arms up, and we're breathing out through the mouth and down to the side. Now breathe in and open the rib cage. And out. Again in. And out into the middle. Breathe again in. And out, and we're going over to the other side. And again in and open the rib cage. in and out in the middle and the arms down. Now breathe in and out with one hand slides down the leg and the other shoulder stays down. And breathe in and out and taking the arm. And breathe in and out, rib cage again. And out. And again in. Hold in the further. And breathe in. And out and the other arm comes down. And the shoulder stays down. And breathe in. And out and taking the arm over. And breathe in and open rib cage. And out. And again in. Out into the middle. And the last of these exercises, the aeronautic, aerobatic, aeroplane. We're breathing in and lifting the arms up. And we're breathing out and one hand comes down. Now breathe in and reach to both ends. And out. And again in. And out the other arm comes down. And breathe in and reach. And out. And another cycle, breathe in. And out and one hand comes down. Breathe in and reach. And out. Again in. And out one hand comes down. Breathe in and reach. And out. So in 1776, the Treaty of Union or the Act of Union was made, and now the Kingdom of Great Britain was formed. Although Scotland was no longer an independent country, it kept its own legal and education system and Presbyterian church. So we had something about imposing laws, but that was for Ireland. We had something about imposing the Revisited Book of Prayers, that was Charles I in Scotland, on the Presbyterian Church. And education system, I don't think we have anything heard of it so far. So Scotland was no longer an independent country, but it kept the right to make its own legal decisions or its own laws, its own legal department, its own legal system and education system, and also the Presbyterian Church stayed independent. Therefore, with the Act or Treaty of Union in Scotland. We're going to do short now a bit what led to that, because the revolution we were pretty fast at the end. First, what is here said. The Bill of Rights 1689 confirmed the rights of Parliament and the limits of the King's power. So, in the Bill of Rights in 1689, the Parliament was confirmed in its powers and the King's powers were limited. The monarch had to ask every year for money for the army and navy. The king or queen had to be Protestant, and also the Parliament controlled who could be monarch. And in this Bill of Rights 1689, the powers between the Parliament and the kings were set. And the first parties had to go, known as Whigs and Tories. The king had advisors and ministers who were making sure that the king, or who were there to to try that the king get the majority for something in the House of Commons and Lords. And they were voted for these peoples in the Parliament, but women were excluded, and only people with property with a certain value were allowed to vote. And there were pocket boroughs where oftentimes just one family could vote, and so-called rotten boroughs where basically no one could vote. Now, by the end of the one stitching, and then we're going to repeat what we have to that new part there. So we're having the legs standing wide apart. We're breathing in and we're going down, we're hanging down, and we're only having to come deeper down and breathing deep in through the nose into the chest. And by breathing out through the mouth. And again in. And out. Again in. And out. And now in and go over to one leg. And out. Again in. And out. Breathe again in. And out, we're going over to the other leg. Breathe in. And out. And in. And out, back into the middle. Breathe deep in. And out, we're coming slowly up the round back, making at the top a backwards shoulder roll. Now we're having the feet standing together. We are breathing in and we're doing the same. We're breathing out and we're hanging again down. So breathe in and out and we're hanging down. And again, I only have to come deeper down by breathing deep in through the nose into the chest. And by breathing out through the mouth. And again in. And out. And again in. And out. And breathe the last time deep in. And out, we're coming slowly up with a round back and make it a backward shoulder roll. Now the last closing exercise for the chunk igniter. We're breathing in and going down. And we're breathing out. I breathe again in. And out. Again in. Out. Again in. Out. Now breathe in and close the legs. And we have done the morning stretching, but what we had so far about was the title of that section. The Act or Treaty of Union in Scotland was that after the reign of William and Mary, there was Anne on the throne, but Anne had no children, so it was unclear who would be the next successor. And it helped to make a union with the Act of Union, the Treaty of Union, to make out of Scotland and England Great Britain. Scotland was no longer an independent country, but it kept its legal, education and its Presbyterian church. So as we will continue in the next part with the Prime Minister. Thank you very much, and at the next time.